If you're over 60 and you've ever opened a lab report, felt your stomach drop, and thought, something's wrong with me, this might surprise you. Sometimes the lab numbers are wrong because nobody told you how to prep. I've seen perfectly healthy people flagged for kidney disease after a hot day in the garden, dehydration, liver injury after a workout, and pre-diabetes after a stressful morning and a cup of coffee. The fix: a few simple choices in the 72 hours before your blood draw. Here's the heart of it. Your blood tells a story about your health, but that story can become fiction if you don't prepare correctly. For adults over 60, tiny mistakes, a vitamin, a brisk walk, a late dinner, even clenching your fist in the chair, can swing results enough to trigger extra scans, new prescriptions, or months of worry. The good news is that nearly all of this is preventable. What you'll get today is a calm, doctor-guided walkthrough of the 10 most common mistakes people make before blood tests, plus exactly what to do instead. We'll translate lab speak into plain English and give you practical timing rules you can put on your calendar. We'll draw on guidance and research from places you can trust. Think Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, NIH, and Johns Hopkins, and build a simple, senior-friendly checklist so you can walk into your next blood draw confident and prepared. Here's the roadmap for this video: medications and supplements, what to pause and what to continue, and how long in advance. For example, how biotin can skew thyroid and cardiac markers. Timing matters. Why morning labs are best for many hormones and iron, and when it's okay to choose another time. Exercise effect. How even healthy activity can falsely elevate muscle and liver enzymes, and the safe buffer window. Alcohol and food choices. What a single glass of wine or a high-fat dinner can do to triglycerides, sugar, and inflammation. Hydration. Sweet spot. Why both too little and too much water can distort kidney and sodium results, and how to get it just right. Stress and the white coat effect, a 10-minute calming routine that lowers cortisol and sugar before you sit down. Positioning and movement. Why sitting quietly for 15 minutes and not pumping your fist can avoid false alarms, especially for potassium and proteins. Which arm to use? The opposite arm rule if you've had recent vaccines, IVs, or lymph node procedures. Fasting instructions. What actually counts as fasting? Yes, even that meant how long to fast and when fasting too long backfires. Real-life planning. A 72-hour countdown checklist so nothing slips through the cracks. My promise, by the end, you'll know how to prevent the most frequent, costly, and stressful lab errors, so your results reflect you, not your last snack or your anxiety in the waiting room. We'll keep the tone warm and judgment-free. If you've made some of these mistakes before, you're in good company. Most people have simply never been taught this. A quick word on why this works. In plain language, blood tests are snapshots. The camera, the lab, is precise, but the lighting, your hydration, stress, activity, timing, and meds changes the picture. Seniors are uniquely sensitive to those lighting changes because hormones fluctuate more, digestion is slower, and medication supplements are more common. When you control the lighting, the picture becomes clear. If you like, grab a notepad. In the next parts, we'll go mistake by mistake with specific do this, not that steps and easy timing rules, e.g. 48-72 hours no vigorous exercise, 72 hours no alcohol, 10-12 hours of true fasting for specific panels, 15 minutes seated quietly before the draw. I'll also give doctor-approved swaps like what to drink during a fast, plain water, how to handle morning coffee, spoiler, for most fasting labs skip it, and how to talk to your clinician about meds without stopping anything unsafe. Most important, you'll leave with confidence. Your next lab day won't be guesswork. It will feel like a routine you've practiced: calm breathing, light water, morning slot, quiet sit, proper arm, smooth draw, and numbers you can trust. Ready? Let's start with mistake number 10, stopping or continuing the wrong medications and supplements, including a common hair and nail vitamin that quietly scrambles dozens of tests and the safe timeline to pause it before your lab. Let's begin with one of the most overlooked yet most powerful lab mistakes: not knowing which medications and supplements to stop before your blood test. It sounds small, but a single pill or vitamin can completely distort your results, and the scary part is, your doctor might not even realize it's the cause. A 2022 study published in Clinical Chemistry found that about 15% of all inaccurate lab results were caused not by faulty machines or technicians, but by the patient's own supplements and medications taken too close to testing time. So let's unpack this clearly and calmly and make sure you never fall into that 15%. Why it happens. When you swallow a pill, supplement, or even a herbal capsule, the ingredients circulate through your bloodstream. Some of those ingredients like biotin, vitamin C, fish oil, or even aspirin can interfere with the chemicals that labs use to measure your results. It's not that these nutrients are bad, it's that they confuse the test, so your blood might look like you have a thyroid disorder, vitamin deficiency, or even early heart damage when you're actually fine. One of the most surprising culprits? Biotin, or vitamin B7, is a supplement many people take for stronger hair and nails. But in 2019, the FDA issued a warning that high doses of biotin can cause dangerously inaccurate blood test results. Here's what happens. Many lab tests use a biotin-based detection system to measure hormone levels, heart enzymes, and even thyroid function. When your blood already contains extra biotin, it mimics the signal and throws off the test. That means you could appear to have low thyroid hormones when you're perfectly normal. Elevated troponin, the heart attack marker, even if your heart is healthy. Vitamin D or B12 deficiency when your levels are fine. According to the Mayo Clinic, even doses as small as 5 to 10 milligrams, common in hair growth supplements, can cause this interference for up to 72 hours after your last dose. Doctor tip: stop taking any biotin supplements at least 3 full days, 72 hours before your blood test. If you're on a prescription strength version, ask your doctor for personalized timing. Other common supplements that alter results. Let's go through a few more that older adults often overlook. Vitamin C. High doses, over 500 mg a day, can make your glucose readings falsely low and can affect cholesterol results. Stop 24 hours before. Fish oil and omega-3 capsules. These can temporarily raise your triglyceride levels or affect blood clotting markers. Stop 48 to 72 hours before lipid tests unless your doctor advises otherwise. Multivitamins with iron or B complex can raise iron, folate, or B12 levels beyond what's natural. Pause for 24 hours. Herbal supplements like ginseng, ginkgo, or garlic. These can thin your blood or affect liver enzymes. Stop 3-5 days before if possible. Aspirin and NSAIDs, ibuprofen, naproxen. Affect platelet and bleeding time results. Avoid for 5 to 7 days only if safe to do so and under your doctor's guidance. Prescription medications, the golden rule. This part is critical. Never stop prescription medication without your doctor's approval. That includes things like blood pressure pills, diabetes meds, or heart medications. What you should do instead is inform your doctor or the lab technician about every single thing you take, even harmless vitamins or over-the-counter sleep aids. Why? Because your doctor can note it in your chart, adjust the test timing, or interpret your results accordingly. If they know what's in your system, they can tell the difference between a real problem and a false reading. One simple habit I recommend to my older patients is this. Keep a medication list in your wallet or phone. Include all your prescription drugs, over-the-counter meds, vitamins, and even herbal teas or powders you use regularly. Update it monthly and show it whenever a blood test is ordered. Hours before your blood test, stop biotin, herbal supplements, and fish oil unless prescribed. Hours before, avoid vitamin C and multivitamins. Never stop prescription meds without guidance, but do tell your provider about them. And if you're unsure, call your doctor's office or pharmacy. It takes 2 minutes, and it could save you from weeks of false alarms and follow-up tests. This first mistake may sound simple, but it's the foundation for every accurate test you'll ever get. Even a perfect blood draw won't help if what's inside your blood has been altered by supplements or timing errors. Now that we've covered what to stop, let's move on to the next major trap. Mistake getting your test done at the wrong time of day. This one can distort hormones, cholesterol, and even iron results by up to 50%, and it's especially crucial for seniors whose body clocks naturally shift with age. Here's something most people, even many doctors, rarely explain. The time of day you take your blood test can dramatically change your results. In fact, your body runs on a 24-hour biological rhythm called the circadian cycle. And that internal clock controls how hormones, blood sugar, and even cholesterol move through your bloodstream. A University of Chicago study found that 62% of patients didn't realize time of day affects their results, and those who tested in the afternoon were twice as likely to get flagged for abnormal hormones or low iron when nothing was actually wrong. Let's unpack why that happens and how to use your body's natural rhythm to your advantage. Why timing matters more than you think. Your body's hormone and energy systems follow a daily rhythm that resets each morning with sunlight. Cortisol, your main get-up-and-go hormone, peaks around 7 to 8 a.m. Then it gradually declines through the day. That's why morning testing gives the most accurate snapshot of your true baseline. Here's how different tests can be thrown off just by timing. Cortisol can vary by up to 50% in one day. Test at 3 p.m., and your levels may look dangerously low when they are actually normal for that hour. Testosterone. Men's levels are highest in the morning and drop by 25–35% by late afternoon. Testing after lunch could make a healthy man appear deficient. Iron and ferritin, naturally highest in the morning, up to 30% higher than evening readings. If you test too late, your doctor might think you're anemic. White blood cells rise 20 to 25% as the day goes on, creating a false picture of infection or inflammation. Blood sugar can spike with stress, caffeine, or even mild dehydration later in the day, especially in older adults. So if you're tracking trends, say monitoring cholesterol or thyroid function over time, doing your test at inconsistent hours makes comparisons nearly meaningless. The golden window, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. That's the sweet spot when your body is most stable. Fasting is easier since you've been asleep, and labs are calibrated for those reference ranges. Most hospitals and labs actually base their normal ranges on morning draws because nearly all clinical trials test participants at that time. If you absolutely can't test in the morning, maybe due to scheduling or medications, write down the exact time of your blood draw. Then, make sure all future tests are done at that same hour for consistency. Even better, mention it to your doctor. A simple note like, "Test it at 3:30 p.m." helps them interpret your results more accurately. After age 60, your body's circadian rhythm tends to shift earlier. That's why many older adults wake up at dawn or feel sleepy earlier in the evening. Testing in the morning works with this natural rhythm. Your hormones, digestion, and blood sugar are in their baseline state. But if you've been sleeping poorly or staying up late, your rhythm can drift. Here's what helps stabilize it. Get sunlight within 30–60 minutes of waking. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even weekends. Avoid bright screens for 90 minutes before sleep to help melatonin rise. These habits don't just improve sleep, they actually make your lab results more reliable because your body's clock runs smoothly again. Doctor's tip. If you're testing hormones like testosterone, cortisol, thyroid, or vitamin D, always request a morning appointment. If you're testing kidney or liver panels, morning is ideal too. It reflects your body's rested metabolic state. Only a few tests are better later in the day, such as blood sugar monitoring for insulin resistance, which can show how your body handles food throughout the afternoon. But for the majority of seniors, earlier is better. So here's your action step. Always schedule your blood test between 7 and 10 a.m. Do it at the same time every future visit. Note the time in your personal health journal or app. This single step eliminates one of the top reasons for false abnormal lab flags and gives you a true, consistent health baseline. Now that you know when to test, let's talk about what not to do before you test. Our next big mistake? One that even health-conscious people make all the time. Mistake number 8. Exercising too close to your blood test. It sounds like a healthy choice, but it can actually make your lab results look alarming, especially for liver, heart, and inflammation markers. Here's one of the most surprising facts in modern medicine. Your workout can make your blood look sick, even when you're in perfect health. Most of us grew up hearing that exercise is always good for you, and it is. But what many people, especially adults over 60, don't realize is that the timing of your workout can drastically distort your blood results. A landmark 2023 study from the American College of Sports Medicine analyzed more than 200 athletes and found that exercising within 24 hours of a blood draw altered over 30 different blood markers, some by as much as 300%. So yes, that morning walk, bike ride, or even yoga class before your test can confuse your doctor and possibly trigger a false alarm. Every time you work out, especially if you're lifting, jogging, or climbing stairs, your muscles go through tiny micro tears, a normal and healthy process that allows them to rebuild stronger. But during that short recovery period, your muscle fibers release enzymes and proteins into your bloodstream, things like creatine kinase, CK, and AST/ALT, which are also markers doctors use to detect heart or liver damage. So when the lab sees high CK or ALT, the computer can't tell whether it came from a workout or an illness. To make it even more confusing, exercise also temporarily raises your white blood cell count, spikes inflammation markers like C-reactive protein, CRP, and alters blood sugar, all within just a few hours. That's why the same lab results that look abnormal on Monday might be completely fine by Thursday once your body is rested. Here's what the research shows. Creatine kinase, CK, can increase up to 300% after a heavy workout and stay high for 2-3 days. Liver enzymes, ALT, AST, can rise by 150% for up to a week after intense training, even when your liver is perfectly healthy. White blood cell count increases by 39–40% after just 30 minutes of brisk activity. C-reactive protein, CRP, doubles for up to 48 hours after exercise due to temporary muscle inflammation. Blood sugar can swing dramatically depending on whether your muscles are using or storing glucose during recovery. These effects are completely normal, but they create a confusing snapshot when they can mimic signs of infection, inflammation, or even liver damage. A 68-year-old patient of mine, Jim, came in for routine labs after a long Saturday of yard work and an early morning jog. His liver enzymes came back 60% higher than normal, and the computer flagged possible fatty liver. After a week of rest and hydration, we repeated the test. Everything was back to normal. That's how powerful exercise timing can be. Here's the simple rule. Avoid vigorous exercise for at least 48 hours before a blood draw. That includes anything that makes you breathe hard or break a sweat: jogging, cycling, swimming, weight training, or even long sessions of gardening. For certain tests like liver function, kidney function, or inflammatory markers, it's safest to wait 72 hours. If you want to stay active, light walking or gentle stretching is perfectly fine. In fact, studies from the Mayo Clinic show that calm movement like slow walking or Tai Chi can even help regulate cortisol and blood sugar, making your results more accurate. The calmer your body, the clearer your results. Try this before your appointment. Skip the workout that day. Replace it with a short walk or light stretching instead. Take 10 deep breaths while sitting in the waiting room. This lowers cortisol and blood sugar. Hydrate gently. 1 glass of water. 30–60 minutes before your appointment keeps veins full and helps the draw go smoothly. This small pre-test routine can make a measurable difference in your numbers and your comfort. So if you're a morning walker or gym regular, schedule your blood test on a rest day. Think of it as giving your body a calm moment to speak clearly before your doctor interprets what it's saying. Now that we've covered exercise, let's move to another hidden factor that skews results for millions of people, even those who barely drink. Misdiagnosis. Having alcohol within 48 hours of your blood test. Even a single glass of wine can throw off your liver, triglycerides, and blood sugar readings for days, and most people have no idea how much it matters. If you're like most adults over 60, you probably enjoy an occasional glass of wine or a small cocktail to unwind in the evening. It feels harmless, even heart-healthy, right? But when it comes to blood testing, that single drink can quietly distort your results for days. According to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, NICE or AA, Alcohol affects over 200 different biochemical processes in your body, many of which show up in your blood work. Even one drink can change your liver enzymes, triglycerides, blood sugar, and hydration levels enough to make your test results look abnormal. That's why researchers at the Cleveland Clinic call alcohol one of the most overlooked pre-test disruptors. How alcohol changes your lab results. When you drink, your liver shifts its focus entirely to detoxifying alcohol. That means it temporarily stops handling other normal metabolic duties like processing fat, sugar, and hormones. As a result, certain numbers in your blood test can swing dramatically for 24 to 72 hours after a drink. Here's what often happens. Liver enzymes, ALT, AST, GGT, can rise by 30–40% after even a single night of drinking. Heavy consumption can keep them elevated for up to 3 weeks. Triglycerides increase by 20–50 points within 48 hours, sometimes enough to trigger a false cholesterol warning or an unnecessary prescription. Blood sugar. Alcohol can cause a rebound rise or drop, especially overnight, confusing fasting glucose readings. Magnesium and B vitamins are temporarily depleted, creating the appearance of nutrient deficiencies that don't actually exist. Iron levels may appear artificially high, suggesting inflammation or even liver overload. One 2022 Stanford study followed 500 adults who cut out alcohol for just 72 hours before their blood test and saw their triglycerides drop by an average of 53 points. That's enough to flip a borderline high reading back to normal. Why this matters more: after 60 as we age, our liver becomes slower at processing alcohol. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that older adults produce less of the enzyme that breaks alcohol down, alcohol dehydrogenase. That means the same glass of wine that your body handled easily at 40 might linger longer and stress your liver more at 65 or 70. So if you're having your annual wellness blood work soon, remember, your liver is working overtime just to clear that drink. Give it a rest so it can show its real numbers, not one skewed by temporary stress. How to prepare properly. For the best accuracy, avoid all alcohol for at least 72 hours, 3 full days, before your blood draw. If you've had more than 2 drinks in one sitting, wait a full week before testing. That includes beer, wine, spirits, and even alcohol-based cough syrups or tinctures. Drink plenty of water to help your body flush out any residual alcohol metabolites. If you can't avoid social events, plan your blood test early in the week after a few alcohol-free days. I once had a patient, Mary, age 67, who came in for her routine cholesterol check. Her triglycerides had jumped from 140 to 210, and she was worried she'd need a new medication. When we talked through her week, she admitted she'd enjoyed 2 glasses of white wine at her granddaughter's wedding the night before. We retested 3 days later. Her levels dropped back to 145. No new meds, no diet overhaul, just smart timing. It's a simple but powerful reminder. Your results reflect your recent choices. By allowing your body a clean 72-hour window, you give your doctor the most truthful snapshot of your health. Doctor's tip: if you want something relaxing before your test, swap that glass of wine for a calming herbal tea. Chamomile, lemon balm, or rooibos all promote relaxation without interfering with liver function. And bonus, good sleep. The night before, your test helps balance your cortisol and blood sugar naturally. So here's your bottom line. No alcohol within 72 hours before your blood test. Your results will be clearer, more accurate, and much more helpful for your doctor to interpret. Now that we've covered alcohol, let's move to a factor that's even more common and even easier to fix. Mistake number 6: being dehydrated or overhydrated before your test. Most people don't realize that how much water you drink the day before can completely change what your kidney, sodium, and blood sugar results look like. If you've ever left the lab wondering why your kidney numbers suddenly spiked or why your sodium seemed off, even though you felt fine, this might surprise you. Most of those scary-looking results have nothing to do with disease. They're caused by something as simple as how much, or how little, water you drank before your test. According to a 2023 study from UCLA Medical Center, even mild dehydration can throw off blood test results by an average of 20%. That's enough to make a healthy person look like they have kidney problems, anemia, or electrolyte imbalance, all because their blood was too concentrated. Let's break down how this happens and how you can prevent it, what dehydration does to your blood. Your blood is mostly water, about 90% of its plasma. When you don't drink enough fluids, your blood becomes thicker and more concentrated. That means every substance inside it, sodium, potassium, glucose, urea, appears artificially higher than it really is. Here's what doctors often see on dehydrated patients' labs: creatinine and BUN, kidney markers, falsely elevated, suggesting kidney strain. Sodium and potassium appear high, leading to possible electrolyte imbalance flags. Hemoglobin and hematocrit rise, mimicking conditions like polycythemia, thick blood. Blood sugar may appear higher simply because your body's water volume is lower. So if you get those borderline kidney or high sodium results, don't panic. Ask yourself first, did I drink enough water that morning? But too much water is just as bad. Here's the part most people don't know. Overhydration, chugging water right before your test, can also create false results. A study of 800 patients at the Mayo Clinic found that drinking more than 1 liter of water in the hour before testing led to 35% showing falsely low sodium and low protein levels. It can even make your red blood cell count look abnormally low, mimicking mild anemia. When you drink too much, you dilute your blood the same way you'd water down soup. This can confuse doctors into thinking you're lacking nutrients or losing electrolytes, the sweet spot for proper hydration. Think balance, not excess. Here's what works best for most adults over 60. Drink 6-8 glasses, about 1.5 per 2 liters, of water the day before your test, spaced evenly throughout the day. On the morning of your test, drink 1-2 glasses, 16-24 oz of water, about 60 to 90 minutes before your appointment. Avoid drinking large amounts all at once. Sip slowly. Look for pale yellow urine, not clear, too much water, and not dark, too little. And remember, if your blood test is fasting, you can still drink plain water. The old advice to avoid all liquids before testing is outdated. Both the Harvard Health Letter and Cleveland Clinic now confirm that hydration actually improves test accuracy, especially for kidney and cholesterol readings. Watch out for hidden dehydrators. Caffeine and alcohol are both diuretics, meaning they make you lose water. If you've had multiple cups of coffee, tea, or a glass of wine the night before, you've likely lost more fluids than you realize. The Mayo Clinic recommends cutting back on caffeine and alcohol 24 hours before your test and adding an extra glass of water for each cup of coffee you drink. Doctor's insight: seniors are more vulnerable. After 60, your body's thirst signals naturally weaken. You may not feel thirsty even when mildly dehydrated. That's why dehydration-related lab errors are especially common among seniors. It's not that your kidneys are failing. It's often that you simply haven't had enough water for 12 and 18 hours. A simple tip: set a hydration reminder on your phone or mark a water bottle with time goals throughout the day, 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 p.m., etc. Your ideal pre-test hydration checklist: drink water normally the day before, avoid alcohol and excess caffeine for 24 hours, have 1 glass of water an hour before your test, sip, don't chug, skip sports drinks, coffee, and tea before the test unless cleared by your doctor. If you're fasting, plain water is your friend, not your enemy. So the next time you're heading to the lab, remember, your kidneys, heart, and liver all rely on that simple foundation of hydration to tell their true story. Now that we've covered hydration, let's move to something even more surprising: how stress alone can make your blood look sick. It's called the white coat effect, and it's responsible for false spikes in blood pressure, cortisol, blood sugar, and inflammation in millions of seniors every year. If you've ever walked into a doctor's office and felt your heart race or your palms sweat for no reason, you're not alone. That sudden tension you feel, that mix of nerves, worry, and anticipation, can actually change your lab results. Doctors call it the white coat effect. It doesn't just raise your blood pressure, it can alter your blood sugar, cholesterol, cortisol, and even inflammation markers. In other words, your stress response can make you look sick even when you're perfectly healthy. What stress really does to your body. A groundbreaking 2024 Harvard Medical School study followed more than 2,000 patients who experienced anxiety before routine blood work. The findings were eye-opening. Cortisol levels were 45% higher on average. Blood sugar rose by about 18 points. White blood cell count spiked up to 25%. C-reactive protein, CRP, a key marker of inflammation, doubled within 30 minutes of the stressful event. That means your body's fight-or-flight reaction, triggered by fear of needles or even the thought of bad news, floods your system with adrenaline and cortisol. Your liver then releases sugar into the bloodstream for quick energy. Your immune system mobilizes white blood cells as if preparing for an infection, and suddenly your labs show signs of inflammation, high blood sugar, or stress hormones when the only thing wrong was a few minutes of anxiety. One of my patients, Carol, age 72, came in for her annual checkup. Her blood sugar measured 142, putting her in the pre-diabetic range, which shocked her because she'd never had blood sugar issues before. I asked her about the morning of her test, and she laughed nervously. "I was so stressed I barely slept. I kept picturing the needle." 2 days later, we repeated her test after she practiced some deep breathing beforehand. Her blood sugar dropped to 95. No new medications, no diet changes, just less stress. That's how powerful your emotional state can be. How to calm your body before your blood test. The good news: you can easily prevent the white coat effect with a few proven, science-backed habits. Here's what researchers from the Cleveland Clinic and Johns Hopkins Medicine recommend. Arrive early, at least 15 minutes before your appointment. This gives your nervous system time to settle. Rushing increases adrenaline, which raises blood sugar and heart rate. Practice 3 to 5 minutes of deep, slow breathing. Try this simple method. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds. This activates your vagus nerve, the body's built-in relax switch. Harvard research shows it can lower cortisol by up to 30% within minutes. Bring calming music or earbuds. Studies show that listening to soft instrumental or classical music before a blood draw reduces stress hormone levels by 23%. Tell your phlebotomist if you're nervous. They can talk you through the process, have you lie down, or use a smaller needle. These small adjustments reduce anxiety-related spikes in stress hormones. Avoid caffeine that morning. Caffeine raises cortisol, amplifying your body's stress response and tightening blood vessels, which makes your draw harder and your results less reliable. If medical visits make you anxious, schedule your blood tests first thing in the morning. Your cortisol rhythm is naturally higher at that time and more predictable. You'll also avoid hours of anticipation stress that can build up later in the day. Think of your blood draw not as a test to fear, but as a conversation between you and your body. When you arrive calm, hydrated, and rested, you're allowing your body to speak clearly, to tell the truth about your health. That clarity can prevent unnecessary worry, medication, or misdiagnosis. As the saying goes, peace of mind is the best medicine even for your lab results. Now that we've covered stress, let's move on to another hidden disruptor most people never think about: movement and body position. Did you know that simply standing up, walking, or even clenching your fist before your blood draw can change your results by up to 10%? Let's break down why and what to do instead. A mistake nurse: not staying still before and during your blood test. Here's something most people, including many nurses and lab techs, don't realize. The way you move, sit, or even hold your arm before a blood test can change your results. That means a completely healthy person could look like they have high cholesterol, elevated calcium, or even a potassium problem, all because they didn't stay still before the draw. According to the Journal of Clinical Pathology, even minor movement can change multiple blood markers by 5 to 10%, and in certain tests, by as much as 20%. When you move, stand, or walk, gravity pulls fluid from your blood vessels into surrounding tissues. That makes your blood temporarily thicker, more concentrated. Researchers found that standing for just 5 minutes before your test can raise cholesterol by 8%, proteins by 10%, and calcium by 6%. Patients who walked briskly to the lab without resting had hematocrit, the ratio of red blood cells to fluid, readings 5% higher than those who sat quietly first. Potassium, which doctors monitor closely for heart health, can jump 20% just from clenching your fist during the draw. And for decades, many labs actually told patients to pump their fist to make veins more visible, a practice now discouraged because it releases potassium from muscles into the bloodstream. Let's say your arm is hanging below your heart instead of supported at heart level. That alone can make your blood pressure and several test values appear higher. If the tourniquet, the rubber band tied around your arm, stays on too long, more than 60 seconds, it can also cause artificial concentration of proteins, calcium, and enzymes. This might sound like small stuff, but when your doctor compares these results over time, even slight fluctuations can lead to big decisions like medication changes or follow-up tests that may not be needed. One of my patients, David, a 68-year-old retired engineer, came in panicked after his doctor told him his potassium was dangerously high, a possible sign of kidney failure. But when I asked him about his test experience, he admitted, "They couldn't find a vein, so I was clenching my fist the whole time." We repeated the test 2 days later this time. He stayed relaxed, arms supported at heart level, no fist pumping. Result? Perfectly normal potassium, no kidney issues, no unnecessary medication. It wasn't his health that was the problem, it was his posture. The best way to sit and prepare before your blood test. To get the most accurate results, follow this simple stillness protocol. Arrive 10-15 minutes early to your appointment. Sit quietly in the waiting area and let your breathing slow. Avoid walking briskly or climbing stairs right before your test. Sit or lie down for at least 5 to 10 minutes before the draw. Keep your arms supported comfortably at heart level. Do not pump your fist. If the technician asks, do it once gently and then relax. Avoid talking or turning your head during the draw. This keeps muscle tension low. If you're nervous, ask to recline. It's safer and helps prevent fainting or vasovagal reactions. These small adjustments help ensure that your blood composition reflects your true baseline, not the effects of movement or gravity. Doctor's tip: think of your blood draw as taking a snapshot of your body's chemistry. If you're rushing, sweating, or fidgeting, that picture comes out blurry. But when you sit still and calm, your body gives a crystal clear image of what's really going on inside. While waiting, try placing one hand over your heart and taking 3 slow breaths. Say silently to yourself, "I am safe. My body is calm." This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, stabilizing blood pressure and reducing muscle tension, both of which help ensure a smoother draw and more accurate results. Staying still might sound simple, but it can make the difference between an alarming misdiagnosis and a clean bill of health. Now that we've mastered posture and calm, let's move on to mistake number 3. Something most people never consider: getting blood drawn from the wrong arm. It sounds harmless, but if you've had IVs, injections, or surgeries, using the wrong arm can lead to completely false readings and even put you at risk for complications. This next one is surprisingly common and potentially dangerous. You might assume that it doesn't matter which arm your blood is drawn from, but in reality, it can make a huge difference. Drawing blood from the wrong arm, especially one that's been recently used for IVs, vaccines, or medical procedures, can completely distort your test results and even put your health at risk. A CDC investigation found that up to 10% of abnormal hospital lab results weren't due to real medical problems at all. They were caused by contamination from IV fluids, injections, or contrast dyes lingering in the arm. Let's unpack why this happens and how to protect yourself. When an IV is running in your arm, even if it's in a different vein, some of that fluid seeps into surrounding tissues. If blood is drawn from the same arm, that diluted fluid gets sucked into the blood sample. The result? Your blood appears thinner, weaker, or artificially normal when it's not. One famous case involved a patient whose blood glucose came back at 450 mg/L, a level that typically indicates severe diabetes or diabetic crisis. The cause? The nurse had drawn blood from the same arm that had just received a dextrose, sugar IV. When retested from the other arm, the result dropped to 95 mg/dl, completely normal. When not to use an arm for blood draws. There are several situations where one arm should never be used for blood collection if you've had an IV in that arm within the past 24-48 hours. Even if the IV is removed, residual fluids can remain in the tissue after a vaccination or injection. A 2022 clinical study found that blood drawn from an arm that received a recent vaccine showed inflammatory markers up to 2% higher than the opposite arm, falsely suggesting inflammation or infection. If you've had a recent contrast dye for imaging tests like a CT scan, those chemicals can linger in local veins and alter readings, especially kidney markers like creatinine. If you've had lymph nodes removed, such as after breast cancer surgery. Drawing blood or even taking blood pressure on that side can cause painful swelling, lymphedema, because the lymphatic system can't drain properly. If you have ongoing swelling, infection, or injuries, any localized issue changes blood composition in that area and increases the risk of complications. Doctor's tip: always inform your phlebotomist before your blood draw. Take 30 seconds to clearly say, "I recently had an IV vaccine / surgery on this arm. Can you please use the other one?" This one sentence can prevent false readings, unnecessary anxiety, and even avoid being prescribed medications you don't need. If both arms have had recent procedures, ask if they can draw from your hand or wrist veins, or reschedule your test for a few days later. Why this matters more for older adults: after age 60, veins often become more fragile, and circulation slows slightly. That makes it easier for fluids from IVs or injections to hang around longer. Even a small amount of leftover IV fluid can alter sodium, potassium, glucose, and enzyme readings dramatically. In fact, the Johns Hopkins Geriatrics Department found that inaccurate blood draws are twice as common in older adults, mostly because technicians don't account for medical procedures or lymph node removals. So the next time you're in the chair, remember, you have the right to speak up. It's your body, and your results depend on clear communication. Checklist before your blood draw. Ask yourself, have I had an IV, vaccine, or injection recently? Tell the nurse or technician before the draw. Always request your non-dominant arm, the one you use less often. Avoid the arm that's had blood pressure cuffs or frequent medical procedures. If unsure, wait 48 hours after any injection or infusion. When you take control of this simple detail, you're helping your doctor see the truth about your health, not a distorted snapshot caused by contamination. Now, let's move to the next major pitfall: what you eat before your test. Most people think as long as they're fasting, they're fine. But the truth is, what you eat the day before can make your results look dangerously high or falsely alarming. We'll unpack that in mistake number 2, eating the wrong foods before your blood test. Here's a shocking truth that even health-conscious people overlook. What you eat the day before your blood test can completely transform your results, even if you followed the fasting instructions perfectly. Research from Stanford University in 2023 showed that 78% of people made food-related mistakes within 24 hours of testing, leading to wildly inaccurate readings for cholesterol, triglycerides, blood sugar, and kidney function. Let's break down why this happens, which foods are the biggest offenders, and what to eat instead to make sure your numbers tell the real story. Most blood panels measure how your body processes fats, sugars, and proteins, but those values can swing dramatically depending on what you ate the night before. In the Stanford study, eating a high-fat meal within 24 hours raised triglyceride readings by an average of 25%, with some people showing a 40% spike. Red meat consumption the night before testing raised creatinine, a kidney marker, by up to 30%, falsely suggesting kidney damage. Sugary foods and drinks within 12 hours of testing raised fasting glucose by 15 to 20 points, often enough to label a healthy person as pre-diabetic. Even seemingly innocent choices like pizza, ice cream, or a heavy steak dinner can flood your bloodstream with residual fat and waste products that stay for hours. These particles make your blood lipemic thick and cloudy, which can even confuse lab machines, leading to more errors. I once had a patient named Linda, age 66, who got her cholesterol results back and panicked her triglycerides were 310. She told me, "Doctor, I don't even eat fried food." When I asked what she had for dinner before the test, she said proudly, "A big bowl of spaghetti with meat sauce. I thought pasta was healthy." We repeated her test after she followed a lighter balanced meal the night before. Her triglycerides dropped to 145, completely normal. No statins, no pills, just smarter timing and meal choice. When you eat a high-fat meal, your body releases chylomicrons, microscopic fat droplets that circulate for up to 12 and 18 hours. Even if you fast overnight, those droplets are still floating in your bloodstream the next morning. Likewise, red meat contains creatine, which temporarily boosts creatinine levels, a compound your kidneys filter. That's why heavy meat eaters sometimes look like they have kidney trouble when they don't. Sugary foods and even artificial sweeteners can raise insulin and cortisol, throwing off your blood sugar, liver enzymes, and inflammatory markers. Even black coffee before fasting can raise cortisol by 25% and mildly elevate liver enzymes, according to Harvard Health. The ideal 24-hour pre-test diet, doctor approved. If you want your blood test to reflect your true health, here's what experts at the Cleveland Clinic recommend. Do eat light meals with lean proteins like fish, chicken, or tofu, steamed vegetables, especially leafy greens, whole grains like quinoa or brown rice, but keep portions small, plenty of water for hydration. Avoid fried or fatty foods, butter, bacon, cream sauces, red meat within 24 hours, sugary or processed foods, alcohol and coffee the night before testing. If you're getting tested for cholesterol or triglycerides, avoid all high-fat foods for at least 24 hours. If your test includes kidney function markers, skip red meat for 48 hours. Keep a quick food journal the day before your blood draw. Bring it to your doctor. It helps them interpret results more accurately. For example, if your triglycerides come back slightly high, your doctor can look at your note and say, you had salmon and avocado last night. That explains it. Without that context, you might be told you need medication you don't actually need. Think of the 24 hours before your blood test as a mini detox. You're giving your body time to clear the system so the test reflects your natural baseline, not what you ate for dinner. And if you're over 60, this is even more important because metabolism slows, meaning fats and sugars linger in your bloodstream longer. You've made it through the top 2 mistakes, but we still have one more, and it's the biggest one of all. The mistake that causes more misdiagnoses, confusion, and unnecessary prescriptions than any other: fasting incorrectly. We'll break that down next, how to do it right, what fasting really means, and the one thing that can destroy your results even after 12 perfect hours. If there's one mistake that destroys more blood test results than all the others combined, it's this one: improper fasting. Even people who swear they didn't eat anything before their test often get this wrong. In fact, a massive 2024 analysis of over 1 million blood tests found that 43% of all fasting samples were invalid because patients unknowingly broke their fast with gum, coffee, supplements, or even flavored water. And those tiny harmless slip-ups can make your numbers skyrocket or plummet in ways that confuse even experienced doctors. What fasting really means and what it doesn't. Let's get this clear once and for all. Fasting for blood work means nothing but plain water for 8 to 12 hours before your test. That's it. No food, no drinks with flavor, no supplements, not even 0-calorie ones. Yet, according to the Mayo Clinic, nearly a third of patients break their fast without realizing it. Here's how. A single piece of gum can contain 5 calories and sugar alcohols that raise blood sugar by 10 points. A splash of cream in your coffee adds enough fat to boost triglycerides by 50 points or more. Even flavored water or vitamins can interfere with cholesterol and glucose readings. Your body is incredibly sensitive to calories. When it's fasting, even the smallest amount breaks that metabolic quiet period your doctor is trying to measure. Why fasting matters so much. The purpose of fasting is to see your body's baseline metabolism, how it handles glucose, fats, and enzymes when you're not digesting food. Eating or drinking anything with calories forces your body to release insulin, activate your liver, and alter hormones. This can make your blood sugar look dangerously high, inflate your triglycerides, alter liver enzymes and electrolytes, throw off your cholesterol ratios and kidney function markers. And it's not just about what you consume, timing matters too. Fasting too short or too long both cause problems. The perfect fasting window, backed by Harvard research, the sweet spot is 10-12 hours before your blood draw. Why not longer? Because after 16 hours of fasting, your body starts to produce ketones and break down muscle tissue for energy. This can raise certain markers like bilirubin and glucose, making you look malnourished or diabetic when you're perfectly fine. For example, fasting too long triggers your liver to dump stored sugar into the bloodstream, ironically raising your fasting glucose. It's your body's way of keeping you alive, but on paper, it looks like you have blood sugar problems. That's why Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, and NIH all agree the most accurate blood work results occur after 10-12 hours of fasting with adequate hydration. Speaking of hydration, drink water. Old advice used to say, "No water before your test." That's outdated and harmful. Dehydration thickens your blood, making it harder to draw and concentrating the results. Doctors now recommend drinking 1-2 glasses of water in the morning before your blood test. Plain water doesn't break your fast, it improves it. If you're fasting overnight, aim for 8 to 10 glasses total in the 24 hours before your test, spread evenly. Sip, don't chug. Common fasting mistakes that ruin results: chewing gum, even sugar-free, adding cream, milk, or sweeteners to coffee. Taking supplements like fish oil or biotin, drinking flavored or vitamin water, smoking or chewing tobacco, raises adrenaline and cortisol, overfasting beyond 16 hours. If you accidentally do any of these, reschedule your test. It's far better to wait one more day than to get results that could mislead your doctor into unnecessary medication or more tests. How to make fasting easier, especially after 6. Fasting can be tough if you take morning medications or have blood sugar issues. Here's how to make it easier and safer. Schedule your test early, ideally between 7-9 a.m. so you're sleeping through most of the fast. Ask your doctor which meds you can take with water. Many can, but some, like thyroid or diabetes meds, may need timing adjustments. Avoid caffeine. Even black coffee can raise cortisol and blood sugar. Keep busy. Light stretching or meditation can distract from hunger. Break your fast gently afterward. Start with water, then a small meal like eggs, fruit, or oatmeal. A 64-year-old man, Robert, came in with triglycerides over 400, a level that usually prompts emergency intervention. But he swore he fasted perfectly. When we asked, he said, "Oh, I just took my fish oil capsules. They don't count, right?" They did. Fish oil contains fat, and that alone can drastically raise triglycerides. We retested a week later, no supplements before the test. His triglycerides were 135, perfectly normal. Doctor's reminder: your blood test is like a photograph of your health. If the lens is smudged even slightly, the picture looks distorted. That distortion can lead to anxiety, medications, and unnecessary procedures. But the power to fix it is entirely in your hands. You can make your results accurate, trustworthy, and truly reflective of your health simply by preparing the right way. Now that you know all 10 of the most common mistakes people make before blood tests, let's finish with a short summary and a few empowering thoughts to help you take control of your next doctor visit with calm confidence. If you've made it this far, congratulations, you now know more about preparing for blood tests than 90% of people who walk into a lab. And that knowledge isn't just nice to have. It can literally save you from months of unnecessary worry, medication, and misdiagnosis. Let's quickly recap the 10 mistakes you now know how to avoid and why they matter so much, especially after 60. The 10 biggest blood test mistakes and how to fix them. Not knowing which medications or supplements to stop. Some pills like biotin or high-dose vitamin C can distort over 40 different test results. Always tell your doctor everything you take and stop biotin 72 hours before testing. Testing at the wrong time of day. Hormones like cortisol and testosterone fluctuate by up to 50% depending on time. Always schedule blood draws between 7:10 a.m. for consistency and accuracy. Exercising too close to your test. Even one tough workout can raise muscle enzymes like creatine kinase by 300%. Rest for at least 48-72 hours before your test. Drinking alcohol within 48 hours. Alcohol disrupts liver enzymes, triglycerides, and blood sugar for days. Avoid all alcohol for at least 72 hours before testing. Being dehydrated or overhydrated, both can drastically change sodium, potassium, and kidney markers. Aim for pale yellow urine and sip 16-24 Oz of water before your test. The white coat affects stress before your test. Anxiety alone can raise cortisol, glucose, and white blood cells by 20-40%. Arrive early, breathe deeply, and relax your muscles before your draw. Moving too much before or during collection, standing, walking, or fist pumping can alter proteins, potassium, and cholesterol. Sit quietly for 15 minutes and keep your arm relaxed at heart level, using the wrong arm for the blood draw. Recent IVs, vaccines, or surgeries can contaminate the sample. Always use your non-dominant arm unless told otherwise. Eating the wrong foods before testing. Heavy, fatty, or sugary meals the day before can inflate cholesterol and glucose. Eat light, balanced meals with lean protein and vegetables. Not fasting correctly. Gum, supplements, or flavored drinks all count as breaking your fast. Only drink plain water for 10-12 hours before testing. Each of these errors seems small, but together they can completely rewrite your health story. Inaccurate test results lead to wrong conclusions, unnecessary medications, and in many cases, lifelong anxiety about problems that don't actually exist. But when you prepare correctly, your test results become your ally. They tell the truth about your heart, your liver, your blood sugar, your kidneys, your hormones. They give you and your doctor the power to make smart, precise choices that protect your health for years to come. If you're over 60, your health isn't just about treating disease. It's about clarity, prevention, and peace of mind. Getting your blood tests right is one of the easiest, cheapest, and most empowering ways to do that. Think of every test as a check-in with your future self. You're not just getting numbers, you're tracking your progress, catching early changes, and proving to your body that you're paying attention. When you walk into that lab next time, you'll do it with calm confidence. You'll know what to eat, what to skip, when to rest, and how to breathe. You'll be in control, not confused or stressed. Remember this, your blood doesn't lie, but it does listen. It listens to how you sleep, how you eat, how you move, and how you prepare. With the simple steps you've learned today, you can make sure that story it tells is the truth, clear, accurate, and full of hope. So take a deep breath, drink your water, plan your meals, and walk into your next test ready to get real answers. Because you deserve clarity, you deserve confidence, and you deserve health that reflects the care you give your body every day. Now, it's your turn. Have you ever gotten a scary blood test result that turned out to be nothing? Which of these mistakes surprised you the most, and which one will you fix before your next test? Share in the comments your experience might help someone else avoid the same fear. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more trusted science-backed tips to live stronger, longer, and healthier after 60. Stay curious, stay proactive, and most importantly, stay kind to yourself. This is your health story. Make it an honest one.